Hello there. My name is Dr. John Livingston, historian, professor here at the Royal Bangkok Institute for Historical Preservation. Today I'm giving you a brief presentation on the Eurasian Union State. We live in an age of super-states, of which there are three. I'm sure everyone is acutely aware. The Oceanians, who sadly consumed my home some 40 years ago. East Asia, which has thankfully spared my current home here in Bangkok. And the topic of today's presentation, Eurasia. The formation of Eurasia goes back to the 1930s, when Joseph Stalin, the heir of Vladimir Lenin, began a series of purges. He ridded the Soviet Union of dissidents and fostered conditions for a clique known as the Red Eurasianists to take chief positions within the Politburo. Now, Eurasian propaganda seems to suggest the purge was against Tsarist elements. It actually was against what they called Trotskyites at the time. I do recall, as a younger man, reading of Trotsky's assassination in Mexico, now what they call Sierra Province in Oceania, with this new clique in the Soviet Union having taken power. Not long afterwards, the German Reich of Adolf Hitler attempted to conquer Europe alongside his Italian allies, and we stood against him. We, as in the British, I apologized. Thailand was actually on their side, I should mention. Ironic in a way. Now, the Allies, that is us, France, America, we had success in Africa. We lost in France, and the Germans tried their luck at invading the Soviet Union. Now, they had early successes in Operation Barbarossa, but ultimately, by 1943, they were being pushed back into their own territory. In 1944, Romania surrendered. In 1945, Hitler took his own life with a lead pill to the brain. Quite a grisly way to go, I might say. Either way, the Allies, in common turn, had split Europe, but it was quite clear the intentions of Stalin were anything but peaceful. He said at the peace conference that Alexander got to Paris, and he only got to Germany. In the last major European war, he refers to the Russian Empire having defeated Napoleon during the Sixth Coalition, if I recall correctly. There were many, but that's not the topic of today. Napoleon is next week, actually. So, World War II has ended. Stalin is poised to conquer the rest of Europe, and we are really not prepared. You have Mao Zedong in China, you have Kim Jong-il in North Korea, propped up by Stalin to fight our man in Asia. Now that is Chiang Kai-shek. Head of the Kuomintang forces there in China. The Eurasian idea was to have a great union of Europe and Asia, and the cooperation between the Chinese and Russia was integral to the eventual formation of this. But what really did the world in was World War III. It's disputed exactly what occurred to begin World War III, but we know hostilities began in 1952. We know that we were not prepared to combat the Red Army, and that again lost Europe to a radical dictatorship for the second time in just a couple of decades. The newly formed alliance, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, it quickly fell apart. A peace deal was forced upon us. The Russians made it to Lisbon, but didn't have the navy to take good old London. The English Socialist Workers' Party, however, had the votes to take London. We learned nothing from Germany, from the failure of democracy in the interwar period in Germany. Our people voted for what is now known as INGSOC. In England, in America, and in Canada, all three of these great Anglo-Saxon states voted some brand of ultranationalist, quote-unquote, socialist into power. and they convened to unify the Anglophone-speaking excuse me, the Anglophone-speaking nations of Earth. Out of fear of Eurasia, Oceania rose from our own choice to give up freedom for security. And now the world has neither. Look around you. We are stuck. Those of us that are free to see and to make this kind of media, we are stuck in small pockets of liberty across the world, like here in Thailand. But even some of the free spots, such as Cambodia, have fallen to the same kind of extremism. Things weren't exactly perfect in the world of Eurasia, even though the Eurasians had indeed beat us in Europe. East Asia did not take well to bowing to Eurasia because they on their own were more populous than the rest of Eurasia. The head of the Korean region managed to gain control of a rebellion fighting a people's war that eventually established control over all of China, Japan, and parts of Kashmir and Vietnam. By 1960, we're looking at these three huge states dominating all of Earth. Any real opposition has been broken. Bangkok exists mainly because East Asia doesn't feel threatened by the Thai, thank God. Many parts of the world that could have potentially posed a threat are now actually in complete anarchy. Through various methods, such as nuclear weapons, perpetual bombardment, etc., etc., places like Egypt are hopelessly disjointed and in complete, perpetual chaos. Luckily, there are cracks in the armor of Eurasia. I have a source on the inside. I take very heavy risks to acquire this information, so you had better appreciate it. But Gorbachev, it's the only name I know him by, a rather high-ranking member of the Politburo, has been killed. He reflected a small faction in Eurasia who wished to reform the Union state, but Politburo has, ever since the death of Stalin, used an image of Lenin as the perpetual leader of Eurasia. But he's not actually a leader. The leader is a collective of elites at the top of the Politburo who direct things. This is why they call it oligarchical collectivism. It's a form of socialism where all resources are collectivized by a few powerful figures of whom we do not know their names. That being said, things like linguistic reforms, which are seeking to eliminate every language, even Russian, and replace it with a single Eurasian dialect, are really shaking things up inside of Eurasia. There are, of the 800 million souls under their rule, probably close to 50 regional language, so the reform is incredibly upsetting to a lot of people. Today is August the 8th, 1984. It is incredibly hot and wet today outside here in Bangkok, so with the end of this presentation, I think I'm going to kick up my feet in my study now, read some prose and pray on the death of Eurasia in the Anglican style. The reality is, Eurasia will likely hold itself together, but these conditions give us hope, and there may yet be a future for the world still. Thank you, and have a good day.
Спасибо.
Очень благодарен. Очень благодарен.
Можно вас на минуточку?
Да?
Присядьте, пожалуйста.
Пожалуйста.
Скажите, пожалуйста, я только что приехал с Золотых приисков. Хочу у вас спросить, не могли бы мы где-нибудь здесь организовать небольшой забег в ширину? Такой, знаете, бордельеро. Ну, я грубо выразился. Я нервничаю, потому что мне деньги жгут ляжку. 100 листов. Их же надо взлохматить. Как вас зовут?
Сергей Михайлович.
Михайлович, нужен праздник. Я слишком долго был на севере, понял?
Я, кажется, придумал. Вы где остановились?
Нигде пока, я только что приехал.
Ну, мне кажется, можно будет организовать, знаете, ну, нечто вроде, ну, такого пикничка.
Так.
В честь прибытия, так сказать.
Да. Такой, знаете, небольшой, аккуратненький бордельер. А?
Окей. Ми фас понималь.
О, sprechen Sie Deutsch, Иван Андреевич. О, мимо организует пяка. Они у нас собаки спляшут. И не маленьких лебедей, нет. Железное болеро. Краковяк в присядку.
Ну, зачем же так? Мы все сделаем культурненько. А это уберите. Уберите.
Vasily Shukshin, a propaganda figure in Eurasia. He was an actor, used in many films, and later a director. He retired to a quieter life in eastern Siberia as an administrator, rather than being promoted up higher through the party apparatus. The news of a language reform, the abolition of Russian, came as a surprise to him and many in the nation. Not even Stalin would have ever gotten rid of Russian as a language. This was madness, Vasily thought, and so did many other lower administrators. The vastness of Eurasia came as a distinct advantage for dissidents, because policing it as closely one might China or England is impossible. So it's no mistake that the main Russian national resistance has found its home around Lake Baikal. All at once, underground resistance movements, socialist reformers, and others rise in Europe, all while Vasily moves to create a plan to save Russia. Eurasia collapsing is not entirely a localized affair. Unrest is happening in Oceania as well. In Africa, the frontier is coming apart. But Eurasia is in active collapse. Many Siberian regional units defect to Shukshin's provisional government. The Tuvan, Buryat, and Yakut autonomous regions all revolted with us to protect their languages. All people must stand together in this trying time to defeat Eurasia and the destruction of culture. Shukshin being at the head of a revolt like this has given them great legitimacy. His use on the big screen in Eurasia means his face is well known from Irkutsk to Lisbon. His support for the revolt shows the true decay of Eurasia. As the front line between loyalist and Republican forces solidify, our numerical inferiority becomes clear. We use the Arctic environment to our advantage, picking fights, staying on the defensive for now. Attritional warfare. The stockpiles of the Red Army along the border with East Asia provided great weapons reserves for our forces, but the main challenge of the Siberian Army was reversing the technological and industrial stagnation. Shukshin put forth a great industrial program to support the struggle, standardizing the training of forces, creating new scientific studies. Russia was waking up again, and as our forces built up, the beginning of a push to the Urals was underway. Novosibirsk is the regional capital of Siberia. The main armies of Eurasia are busy fighting in Europe, but we have a clear path ahead to take Novosibirsk and press on to Chelyabinsk and Yekaterinburg. Much of the front line is underdeveloped, sparse, and hopelessly cold. The southern half of the line must be our main focus. If we are to save Holy Russia, we must be swift. Expansion of the armed forces is progressing nicely. Operation Arctic Thunder consisted of multiple parts. Phase 1 would consist of localized encirclements and guerrilla tactics. We have passed Phase 1. Phase 2 is to seize Novosibirsk and to defend the railways as supply is shored up for the final phase. Phase 3 is Operation Ivan, an all-out offensive after solidifying our position to press to the Ural Mountains and solidify our position definitively. First, we liberate the rich and vast Siberia, Then we can worry about the rest of Russia and the rest of Europe. For now, let's go.
Молчаливой грозной тучей в бой идут сибиряки. Молчаливой грозной тучей в бой идут сибиряки.
Novosibirsk provides an excellent new capital. With the consolidation of Siberia, we integrate the autonomous regions of Tuva, Yakutia, and Dyadya, and formally declare the Russian Federation. The dream of Russian republicanism did not die in 1917, even if the Tsar did and the Bolsheviks sent Kerensky running. The mistakes of Eurasia have caused their union to collapse out from under them. Even in the capital region, a reformer within their own Politburo, Lev Gumilyov, has risen against Eurasia, attempting to create a new version of Eurasia. But we can't allow any version of Eurasia to exist, whether it be some computerized Lenin or Gumilyov. Eurasia is a scourge on nations, on Russia, and we will kill them both. The final push for Moscow will not be easy. Between the Urals and Moscow is 1,000 kilometers of sparse and infrastructurally degraded land. It will be hell for both our armies. The first week will be tantamount to securing victory. Overrun Gumilyov, then steel ourselves against the Eurasian horde. The forces of Eurasia have banded together once more, and all is one. 400 divisions stand against us, but we have the people, the tech, the industry. We will fight for decades if needed, but we won't need to. For the defenders of Moscow, of Russia, may God be with you. We've failed to secure early objectives such as Astrakhan, but this is all right. Attritional warfare worked before, it'll work again. We have finally acquired the resources to press for Astrakhan again. A Caucasian offensive is underway. If we can seize Stalingrad, we will strike a blow so deep in the heart of Eurasia, they will never recover their morale. Go, go, go! This initiative cannot be spoiled. Yes, yes! Moscow is ours! Forward, forward! Into Finland, the Baltic. Save all of Europe. Save the nations of the world. Into the lion's den. Finally, ultimately, Eurasia has fallen. Conflict in Europe is not entirely over despite this. A faction of communists has risen in Europe. West and East Germany fight. The communist Czechs and French stand with them. Eurasia was a socialist state, or they used it to justify their totalitarian rule, but we cannot chance a return to socialism. We cannot allow communists to persist in Europe. We are the leaders of Europe now, a free one, a faction of free nations of the old Eurasia. We must stand together. A collective security treaty is signed in Munich with signatories from Finland, Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, Greece, Italy, France, and others. We intervene against the Fifth Internationale. It should be a quick war, but the communists are very resilient. They won against Eurasia, as we did, and now we have to beat those who helped us vanquish the beast. With the fall of Berlin, Paris, and Prague, nearly 2 million lay dead in the ruins of the communist states. All in all, between the Eurasian collapse and the war with the Fifth Internationale, we have lost over 10 million men in combat. It's costly, but all together, we have one more brother in Europe to help. Airstrip 1, the Oceanian name for the United Kingdom. Big Brother is losing in many fronts, in Africa, Mexico, America, Canada. But in England, Winston Smith's last holdout is in the Scottish Highlands. His revolt has little time left. We extend an olive branch to Mr. Smith, offering 1 million Russians and logistical support to his cause. The United Kingdom signs the Collective Security Treaty, and we rush in 72 divisions. Supply is terrible, but we use our soldiers to rapidly prepare new port facilities, airstrips, and supply hubs. Soon we have hundreds of cargo planes paradropping tens of thousands of tons of supplies to our forces. With enough persistence, our forces finally crack the Oceanian line. Their forces proved more resilient than Eurasia's, but then the forces of Airstrip 1 have been crushing Winston's revolt for the last 5 years. It's been a long, long time since the collapse began. Tactics have evolved, weapons have evolved, but Oceania is dying out. Our forces cannot be stopped. To London for freedom! Death to tyrants! America is free of Oceania. Europe is free of tyrants. We keep a strong vigil over the world. Freedom lives again. Democracy thrives across many parts of the world. Oceania still persists in some parts, and East Asia, having never fallen, poses a major threat. But the nation is one dictatorship, localized to China, much less threatening than 3 giant ones, but still threatening. The world isn't safe. It'll never be fully safe, but this brave new world offers us a second chance to defend our freedom, to defeat radicalism, to not repeat the mistakes of our ancestors, and to make a better future for our children. Shukshin looks on the world he's created with Russian guns, Russian blood, Russian bravery. He is happy. Russia's home to heroes again, liberated from the stigma of Stalin. The ghost of Eurasia can die. The tricolor can fly high in its place. Thank you all so very much for tuning in today. It's a late upload, and frankly, I've been slacking lately, but I'm happy if you made it this far. I'm happy to see that we've reached nearly 8,000 subscribers. And now it's time for my Patreon mentions. Special thanks to Panchak, Rainbow Flies, Steve Hayes, Null Scorpion, Cyclonus777, Same Cash App, and Boost Gumps, my $5 supporters, my Knights of Biscuit. Every cent helps. Thank you very much. If you've paid into my $5 tier or are interested in paying in, make sure that you join my Discord. Here is the invite code here, and it will be in the description. One of the benefits is that you get a unique role, so make sure that you claim that. Have a good day. Love you all. Love you all. Happy Sunday, Monday. It's Monday. It's Monday.